Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson.
When I met you, I had my daughter in tow, and this show, I have my daughter in tow because she decided to wake up from her nap.
Motherhood is both amazing and difficult at the same time. The Passport Mommy, Michelle Jerson, is here to share in your journey.
It's amazing. It really is, just watching them grow and see how much change and how much they learn just without the filters around them as you get older.
Motherhood is a journey that can take you off the beaten path. Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy, is here to help you navigate.
You are awesome.
Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have with me on for our first segment, Dr. Alyssa Dweck. She is a practicing gynecologist in Westchester County, New York. She received her medical degree from Drexel University. She's also the brand ambassador for Monistat and co-author of 3 books, including The Complete A to Z for Your V, a comprehensive guide to all things vaginal health. She and her co-author hope to remove some of the mystery and taboos surrounding many gynecological issues in a humorous and chatty, but medically sound and up-to-date V guide. Hi, Dr. Dweck. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me.
Sure. So I think we all need an up-to-date V guide, right? You can never read too many V guides.
Yeah, the funny thing is that not only women read V guides, it seems that a lot of our male counterparts are interested as well.
Right, absolutely, because they need to learn what's going on, right? I mean, they're exploring a good bit.
Always good to have a good understanding of what's going on, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I have a 2-month-old. This was my second pregnancy. And I wanted to have you on because you are the brand ambassador for Monistat. And most women, I feel, are familiar with the brands, but you can tell us a little bit about it. And I wanted to talk about the misconceptions as far as how to take care of yourself down there when you are pregnant and what you can and maybe shouldn't do. So tell me a little bit about your role with Monistat.
So, my role with Monistat is essentially as an educator. I'm a spokesperson for the brand because I truly believe in the brand. It's been an iconic brand for women's health for a very long time. In fact, people refer to Monistat even when they might be speaking of other products. Monistat, best known for treatment of yeast infections in the vagina. And, this is particularly important because vaginal yeast infections are up to 10 times more likely to occur during pregnancy than when somebody is not pregnant. And this is, of course, in part due to the significant hormone changes that are occurring. So that's a very important thing to know. In addition, there is information out now from recent study that suggests that the safest way to treat yeast infections during pregnancy is with a 7-day cream. So I typically do recommend 7-day Monistat to my patients, especially if they're pregnant. Women usually know when they have a yeast infection. The symptoms are fairly straightforward. However, in pregnancy, things are different. And of course, we're always super careful to make sure that we're diagnosing a yeast infection properly.
Right, because I feel like when you're pregnant too, I know myself, I'm very cautious about what goes into my body orally when it comes to medication. And I would much prefer to do anything topical over orally if I could.
100%. It's much less risky. The oral tablets that are available to treat yeast infections are actually not really considered first choice for pregnant women because they've been linked in recent data to miscarriage and possibly even heart defect, which is the reason that the CDC recommends the 7-day anti-yeast treatments in the vagina as a topical treatment. So you're 100% right about that.
Right. And I feel like there is a lot of misconceptions when pregnant or just things that maybe women just aren't fully aware of. So it's nice to hear that you are recommending this for your patients. What else? What other tips should women just kind of listen to when it comes to their pregnancy? Because I know women want to do everything they possibly can do to make sure they have a healthy pregnancy for both themselves and their baby.
Of course. Well, look, there are a lot of myths that get sent along regarding pregnancy, what to do, what not to do. that get passed along from generations. And then, of course, as time goes by and we have a little bit more literature and experience and research, we realize some of these things get dispelled. So, for example, smoking used to be considered perfectly fine during pregnancy. Nobody really gave much thought to that until research started to show that low birth weight babies were more common in women who smoked, as well as other complications that can occur. Therefore, over time, we realized this is now an unsafe practice during pregnancy, and things have changed and advice has changed. In addition, alcohol. We still don't know what is the lowest limit of alcohol that's considered safe in pregnancy. We worry about fetal alcohol syndrome, and since there's no safe lowest dose, I typically just recommend no alcohol at all until you have a healthy bouncing baby that's on the outside. So these are some myths that have been dispelled over time. Exercise, the whole premise of exercise during pregnancy has definitely changed as the years have gone along, where some women in the distant past used to be frightened of doing any exercise. Then things changed where we used to advise monitoring your heart rate to do exercise safely in pregnancy. And now this has evolved again, where we typically recommend going by your feeling of exertion rather than your exact heart rate. And exercise is surely encouraged unless you're having troubles during your pregnancy. I think the most appropriate advice is to defer to your healthcare provider. They know your intricacies of your pregnancy, your individual medical issues and health history, and I think that's probably the best bet.
Right. And when you talk about exercise, I have to say that if it wasn't for exercising through both of my pregnancies, I don't think I would have felt as good as I did. And I really attribute exercise and eating healthy to the, thank goodness, good pregnancies that I've had.
Couldn't agree more. Not only that, if you really think about labor, or even if you're having a C-section, the active childbirth and then surely the care thereafter, it's almost like a physical experience similar to a workout. So any training with exercise beforehand can come in pretty handy.
Oh, sure. Definitely. And I will say that both of my labors I did without medication, and
wow.
I had to, what's that?
I said, oh, wow.
Yeah, but I just really had to channel that. Okay, go back to that yoga class. Go back to those ab muscles that you use. I mean, it's really hard to think about while you're in labor, but it really did help.
Sure, it definitely does. And for all those women out there who feel the need to go for your epidural or spinal, which certainly is very popular these days and in my neck of the woods, exercise still comes in super handy for not only the physical exertion before you get pain control, but the after. And the mental benefits are certainly great.
Yeah, absolutely. And please, just because I happen to do it without drugs, I give women plenty of credit. I think I'm just more scared of the epidural than the actual without doing it.
Whatever works for you is just fine, as long as everybody's healthy at the end.
Exactly. So real quickly, tell me, where can people go for more information on Monistat? Are there any other facts about Monistat that we should know of for when we're pregnant and even when we're not pregnant?
Well, Monistat comes in various forms for yeast infection treatment, and I think what's most important is that it's the Monistat 7 cream that is the recommended treatment for pregnancy. For women who are not pregnant, Monistat comes as a 3-day course. It comes as a cream or a suppository, so these things are also options. It also can come with an external cream that can soothe that miserable itching and irritation and swelling feeling before treatment takes hold. You can go to basically any drugstore to pick this up as a physical product, but also get further information from monistat7.com.
Great. Terrific. And what can women do real quickly to try to avoid infection if they can? I know sometimes there's just no avoiding it, but are there steps that we can take?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I think pregnancy is kind of a different category. So if you're ever not certain that you have a yeast infection and you might be suffering with, say, a vaginal discharge or itching, please check in with your healthcare provider because we certainly don't want to miss something more significant. For all of the other ladies out there, lowering the sugar in your diet, lowering the alcohol in your diet, getting out of a wet bathing suit or wet workout clothes as soon as you're done with your activity, those things are going to be helpful for prevention of yeast. In addition, use antibiotics wisely because that can predispose you to an infection due to altering the pH. Same with some of the other products that might be used for feminine hygiene, such as douching, which is frowned upon because it also can alter the pH and lead to an infection.
Right. All excellent tips. And I know I take a probiotic every day. I know there's back and forth belief about that on whether or not it works, but I guess you tell me it can't hurt, right? To just take a supplement.
It certainly can hurt, and I do find that some women do find it quite helpful to take a probiotic regularly, especially if they're some of the people who are suffering with recurrent infections. So again, good to check in with your healthcare provider, but a probiotic could be a good preventative measure.
Great. Dr. Alyssa Dweck, thank you so much for joining me today. If you are in the Westchester County area, definitely check her out if you're looking for a gynecologist. And again, head to Monistat's website for more information on what you can do when you're pregnant or even not pregnant and dealing with the yeast infection. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. Next, we're going to talk with my good friend Marshall Stevenson all about what we're currently going through as parents of a 2-year-old. More coming up in a few.
Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome back to the show. Thrilled to have with me my good friend. He is a regular guest at this point, Marshall Stevenson. He is a New York City comic and also a great dad. And I love talking with him just about all types of topics that we are currently going through as fairly new parents. Marshall, thank you so much for joining me today.
Always love to be on.
Thanks. So I don't know if your daughter is going through this, but something that is new is I'm really seeing what they call the terrible twos come into full swing. Like my daughter is sweet as can be, fun-loving, love her to pieces. Not that I feel I need to give her that disclaimer, but lately she's been really difficult. I mean, besides the tantrums, I feel like she's not listening. She doesn't hear me when I say, okay, let's go. We have to go somewhere. And then yesterday I picked her up finally because she wasn't walking towards the car like I had asked the last 20 times. Picked her up. She started pulling my hair. And I mean, really like taking a whole bunch and just pulling it out. Yep. And she's really acting out. She does this thing, pop, pop, where she will pop your face with her hands. And I'm just wondering, is this something that your daughter is going through, or is she still the little angel that I always know her to be?
Well, when we talked before we got on the air about this topic, I was going to commiserate with you, but now I realize, no, she's the angel. I'm not going through that kind of stuff, no.
Oh,
you want to hear the story of what we had yesterday? Because this was the level of defiance. So I do, and we could talk about this more, I do try to, have a very long string. So if they're I'm not ready, they're okay, when will you be ready? Okay,
right.
Just a few minutes. Okay, would you like to press the timer? And then at the end of the timer, most of the time, she'll be okay. And then you'll have to fight the next, okay, now that we're in the car seat now, 2 minutes before we have to strap you in. Okay,
right.
I want to press the timer. There's some defiance here, whereas before she went in.
Right.
Yesterday we were out to dinner, and just me and her and some friends, and we were going to go back home to see Mommy. And she didn't want to go back home. She wanted to jump on the grates. It was a lot of fun jumping on the grates. I mean, I have to admit that was fun, but she just didn't want to stop jumping on the grates. She wanted to go in the car, and I don't want to go back home. No. So so she also needed a diaper change at this point, and no, don't want to go back home. So, I have to keep doing the timer thing first to get off the first grade and then to get to the car. And by the way, I know that a lot of people think this is terrible, that I'm going to have a complete, spoiled child. But then, so we get into the car finally, I'm like, I got to change your diaper. And no diaper change, no diaper change. I get the diaper off her, somewhat, forcefully.
Right.
And no, she wants the diaper back on. So we call Mommy, my wife, on FaceTime, and we end up putting the dirty diaper back on. And then
wow. So she wouldn't even let you put a clean diaper on?
Well, but here's the thing. It wasn't that, first of all, it was pee and that dirty, but she's a real negotiator. And it was kind of like she agreed to go in the chair and be strapped in and be on our way if I would only put the dirty diaper back on. And I'm like, so you're done with, so I don't have to talk her off the grates anymore. We're making progress.
Right. I know.
Because
it's funny.
A few minutes ago, I couldn't get her in the car, but I have to say, that she was crying along the way, but the kid has never hit me, pulled me, we've never had to pry her off the floor. It's just you have to have the patience of okay, for the next 20 minutes, we're going to try to leave.
Right. And I wonder if maybe it's just me. Maybe my patients aren't what they used to be anymore. Maybe I feel okay, we need to go. We don't have time for this anymore. We go through this every single time. This goes on during her bedtime routine too, which I want to talk to you about in our next segment. But it's just, I don't know. And then I get mad at myself for not being as patient as I really want to be. I never want to be forceful. And when I say forceful, I just mean I don't want her to think mommy's mean and blah, blah, blah. No, but at the same time, I feel there needs to be some discipline we just need to get going.
Right. So sometimes you just need to get going. And I don't know, though. It's not. There always seems on our end to be a way that you can talk to her into doing it. And just
right.
be and part of it maybe for me, my wife the same way, is unless it's vital that we move, I do allow a lot of leeway. So then the rare occasion I'm we're leaving now, she kind of gets my seriousness.
Oh, well, that's good.
Well, there'll be resistance, but maybe I only have to do a 2-minute drill instead of 8 of them.
Right. Okay. So we're almost out of time, and it is National Breastfeeding Week. And so we are speaking with somebody coming up all about that, but I want you to come back on with me the segment after, because I want to continue
about that too.
About this. Okay. Okay. We can talk about that too.
About Breastfeeding Week.
Yes. All right. Well, coming up in a few, we are going to talk with an expert on lactation consultant about National Breastfeeding Week. But Marshall, come back and join me again in just a few minutes, because I want to continue talking about this defiance and how it bleeds over into bedtime too. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. More coming up in a few.
Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Welcome back to the show, and I'm so happy to have with me Shari Criso. She is an RN, a certified nurse midwife, international board-certified lactation consultant, and a nationally recognized parenting educator. And she is going to talk to us today about the importance of breastfeeding, nursing after you give birth, and how to make that transition back into work with pumping, and why it is so important. But that I should say that our ability to access these breast pumps, which currently you can get through your insurance company, is being threatened. Hi, Shari. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me.
I have a 2-month-old who happens to be in my lap right now, and I have a 2-year-old, and I took advantage of being able to get a breast pump free of charge through my insurance company, which was very, very helpful. So tell me what's going on.
Well, it is being threatened, and what we did was I'm working with Byram Healthcare, who sponsored a survey through Wakefield Research, where they looked at they spoke to surveyed 1,000 women, all with ages like yours, under the age of 2, who were recently breastfed or currently breastfeeding. And the results that came back were, I guess, surprising, not to me, but kind of discouraging to see how little moms really knew about their rights under the law and their benefits that were afforded to them under the Affordable Care Act. And so that was sort of what the survey was about, and we saw that, even though 95% of working moms who breastfeed have used a pump, okay, and that it gave them the ability to shape their lives and to advance their careers, and they needed those pumps, but fewer than 1 in 5 of the women who were surveyed were aware of all these benefits under the law. So they're not utilizing it. They have these benefits and they don't know it.
Interesting.
Almost 11% didn't even know that there were any rights at all, that they had any rights or any protection. And they're not being protected by employers.
Right. And so tell me now, so the Affordable Care Act is on the chopping block, though, and the no-cost breastfeeding equipment and support is being threatened to be cut.
Well, that will be one of the things. This is something that women got the benefit of several years ago with the Affordable Care Act. And if that goes away, women will stop receiving those benefits, which include a no-cost breast pump, like you said, you were able to receive, and also lactation services, lactation support from a lactation consultant. You can do that during your pregnancy to get prepared and knowledgeable about breastfeeding before the baby comes, as well as afterwards. And this is all covered through the Affordable Care Act, through your insurance, at no cost to you. So these are all things that, even if you're not a breastfeeding mom, if you're a man, if you have a daughter, if you have a wife or a sister, this affects all of us. And so it's really important to understand that these things are threatened, and for so many women, they need to go back to work. The breast pump is what makes that possible, to continue to breastfeed and be separated from their baby. And many of them cannot afford to purchase a pump.
Right. Yeah, because they started there are different grade levels of pumps, but on average, they're about $150, $200 for a good one.
They're expensive. And so for many women, that's just out of their range of being able to afford them. So this is just helping a lot of moms by being able to get a pump. They're able to prepare ahead of time, start thinking about breastfeeding, get familiar with the breast pump, even, beforehand. And that right there with the lactation services really helps moms who might not have been breastfeeding continue to do it longer, even after they return to work.
Right, exactly. And I have to say, even if you're not going into an office every day, it's really beneficial to pump, because let's just say maybe you need to, get some type of procedure where you need to not nurse for 24 hours, or maybe you just want to get out and do something and have your partner give a bottle once in a while, or a babysitter. So it really is beneficial to be pumping while you're nursing if you can.
I'm a big advocate of being able to do it all. Anything that's going to make it easier, more flexible, to do it longer term. And breast pumps are just this really great tool to be able to do that. Whether you're going to be with your baby or away from your baby, like you said, having the pump, having some stored milk is always a good idea.
Right. Absolutely. And as far as there are different types of pumps, the ones that I have found that are covered under the insurance are maybe like a Spectra or a Medela pump. And some of them are plugged into the wall. Some of them aren't. I tend to find that the ones that are not plugged into the wall are not covered by insurance. Are there some insurance companies that do cover those or offer them as a supplement if you'd like to purchase them?
Yeah, usually your insurance company will not dictate which pump you get. And there are lots of really good pumps that run on batteries. There's even flow pumps and other different types of pumps that actually have batteries, AA's you could put right into it, or come with a car adapter. And these are some of the features that I tell people to look for. I've worked with breast pumps for many, many years. And one of the things that I loved that I did with Byram, working with Byram on this whole project here, was we created a Working Mom's Guide to Breastfeeding Toolkit. It's a downloadable toolkit that you can get right on their website if you go to ByrumHealthcare.com and download it with all of the information regarding your breastfeeding rights, guidance on how to select the best breast pump for you, what features to look for, all kinds of tips and advice from me on breastfeeding and returning to work. I also was a working breastfeeding and pumping mom. And right there on Byrum's website, you can even order your breast pump. You just put your insurance. It takes like 15 minutes. You put your insurance information in. They have all the different types of breast pumps for you to select, and they have a great customer service. You can speak to somebody as well if you want to do it that way and call in. And usually you can get your no-cost pump within 4 to 7 business days right in the mail.
Yeah, I did order my last pump from Byrum Health, and their customer service was great. Yep. And the pump was on my doorstep, I think even in less time than that. It was great.
Yeah, it's easy. It's really easy. We need more moms to know that this is their benefit and that they can utilize this and get these pumps. And even if they're buying an extra, I mean, some moms like to have two, one at work and one at home, but at least to have that initial pump that's covered by your insurance is a really amazing benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. And so tell me a little bit more. We talked about the benefits that we can access. Where can somebody go just to read up more about them, just to see exactly what is covered under their plan?
Well, I think that's the reason we put the toolkit together. You mean their own individual plan? Is that what you're saying?
No, or just in general, like you said.
Yeah, I think that's the reason we did the toolkit, so that it's all easy and accessible in one place. Downloading that toolkit's a great place to start. I mean, it has all the information, easy to read, and some really great pocket guides and things that you could carry with you. I mean, one of the problems that we see is that women are, even in today's day, it's just crazy that we're still talking about this. But, there's this stigma when it comes to breastfeeding, and there's people who, are harassed. You hear about it every day, people in Target or in the mall or somewhere being told that they shouldn't be breastfeeding or to go cover up or be somewhere else or go to the bathroom. We have, beyond the rights and protections that we have in the workforce, there's also protections in public. All 50 states protect breastfeeding moms to be able to breastfeed in any public or private location. So sometimes having the information on you so that you can reference it, you can show it to someone else, whether that's somebody that's harassing you or your employer or a store owner or a manager, is important to know and have with you. For the employers, I mean, one of the, I think, more disturbing parts of the survey showed that 66% of the moms who they surveyed experienced some kind of frustration or embarrassment at work because someone was walking in on them as they were pumping. There were rude comments made to them. They were being asked to pump or breastfeed somewhere else. And so this really goes back to employers as well, that they need to know these rights, and then they need to educate not only their employees, their female employees who are expecting or breastfeeding, but all of their employees. This is a form of discrimination and harassment that needs to not happen.
Right. And I have to say that at one of my places of employment, when I was pumping, I had to pump in front of male counterparts. And I think it was because of the nature of the business, in that it was, you were on every few minutes on this TV newscast and there was really nowhere to go. However, I did have little breaks, and I was never told that there was a nursing room, or it was never made public that there was a place where I could have gone if I had a few minutes.
Right. And women feel intimidated, too. I mean, part of what I'll keep going back to the research, the study, because let's hear what the moms themselves were saying. 53%, more than half of them, said they had their hours cut or their workload altered because they were new moms, and even though they didn't ask for it or want it. So they are being... These are really alarming results here. Women are not able to advance themselves and get the same benefits as everyone else.
Exactly. And there was actually just a lawsuit filed against one of the big news stations in New York by two women who were discriminated against for either being pregnant or having their hours cut or not being given a promotion to a full-time job was available, and blatantly being told it was because they were a new mom and didn't think that they could handle the flexibility of the hours.
Yep. I mean, we don't pass laws in this country to protect or give more moms the ability to stay home, longer maternity leaves. We don't do that, but then we ask them to go back to work. We make them have to go back to work, leave their children in many cases, and then don't provide the protection, even though the law is there. Stricter penalties for these employers who are not following it.
I know, exactly. And I applaud the women who are filing, because I really think that there does need to be greater awareness being brought out in the public about this. And it is crazy that in this day and age, this is still happening, and happening by other women employers, women supervisors. How do you explain that?
Yeah, breastfeeding is an interesting topic. I've been in this field for such a long time, and it just always amazes me. There's a lot of passion around the topic. There's also a lot of emotion around the topic. Unfortunately, because of the lack of education that moms receive and the lack of support that we receive, whether it's not having extended maternity leaves or not having the right education ahead of time, a lot of moms aren't able to breastfeed as long as they plan to, and it's not their fault. And that creates sometimes guilt or feelings of, well, I didn't do it, so you don't need to do it either. Or you hear older women who haven't breastfed, they didn't get supported. Back in the 70s and 60s, women were not supported to breastfeed or encouraged to. And there's sometimes a feeling of, well, my children turned out fine. And it brings up all kinds of emotion. And this is not about pitting anybody against each other or saying that women who choose not to breastfeed are doing a bad thing. That's not it. But the research is there, and we know that breast milk does create better health outcomes for children, for women, and in some cases saves lives. We know that.
Yeah.
That's just a fact.
Yeah. It's funny because my daughter is 2 years and 4 months, and she is still nursing, and she had like a resurgence of wanting to nurse after her baby brother was born, and she tasted all this delicious milk that was back. And so, and people say to me, like, she's still nursing? And it's like, yeah, she is. You know what? And it's okay. And it's good.
Absolutely. And on top of that, it's not just that it's okay. She's still receiving all the health benefits of the milk, no matter how long she nurses for. And this is where that lack of knowledge of what is in that milk that is really helping and making a difference in her health. Keeping her healthy and not sick, especially as we go into the winter months and people think about weaning because the clock said so or the calendar said so. You really need to do your research and read and learn, and then, get the support where you can, because doing this without support is so hard, just so hard.
Yeah. Absolutely. Shari, thank you so much for joining me today.
Every day, online, on social media, on Facebook. I talk to moms all over the world. This is what I do all day now. And I'm just surprised every day by how little women really know about themselves and their bodies and breast milk and all of it. And that's what I do all day long now.
Yeah. Well, Shari, you're doing great work. Thank you. For more information, you could check out breastpumps.byramhealthcare.com. I really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing such great insight. For anybody who may be looking for a breast pump, looking for lactation services, know your rights and reach out to Shari, because having a lactation consultant is so helpful when you are getting ready to give birth or after you do so. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy. More coming up in a few.
Motherhood is a journey. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
We were talking with Marshall Stevenson a little earlier all about the defiance that comes with having a 2-year-old. And, I feel like this has gone into bedtime routine as well. And it takes forever to get my daughter to bed. I mean, literally an hour and a half since she leaves the bath until she goes into her crib. Marshall, do you experience this?
Yeah, and I disagree with all you all about this. I think the way to get a kid to go to bed earlier is to wake them up earlier. And the problem that what we're doing is we are trying to make them go to bed when they're actually not ready.
Oh, I disagree.
That's the problem.
My daughter wakes up early, and I think the more exhausted they are, the more wound up they are at night and don't settle down because they're overtired.
That does happen, so that's right. So they do if they get overtired, but it's just my experience is, like, because now there are evenings when I take our daughter and my wife is with her folks, and I just do it a little differently, and I do the bath later, and I kind of put her to bed much closer to when I see she's naturally going to bed, and I don't have the same length of issues. And I find that if she wakes up later, it's like an aggregate total number of hours. So like if she woke up at 9 in the morning, which happens, and then she had a 2-hour nap, you can't start the ritual at 7. Forget it. She's not tired. So it's more, I think it's more of a control thing with the parents. They're like, I want this bedtime to be this sacrosanct time. But I think it's a mistake. You want it, you wake her up earlier in the morning. That's how you control the time she goes to sleep.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my daughter wakes up anywhere between 7:30 and 8 lately. She takes a nap during the day. She's up by 3. And then by 8 o'clock, I think it's pretty reasonable to have her in bed. But no, I feel like when my husband, who very nice, he gives her her bath at night, but I feel like he winds her up, and then she comes screaming out of the bathroom, running across the hall, and then has to do everything but go to sleep. She has to tuck her dolls in. She has to change her doll's diaper.
Right.
She has to put this one on. I mean, it's never ending. And by the end of it, my husband and I are exhausted. We're like, okay, we're ready for bed. So much for free time.
Yeah,
you know,
so
and
we
it's
go
just
through
exhausting.
that too, because I don't agree completely with my wife on this, and I just think that if she's like wants to go do the doll, then you can say something to her like, you can do that, but then you have to play by yourself, and then you go in the other room and do what you need to do, and let her have her 20 extra minutes before she goes to sleep.
Right.
No?
Well, I don't know where my daughter got this from, but every single second it's, Mommy, don't walk away. Daddy, don't walk away. So we can't walk away.
Well, that now I can identify with. Oh, my goodness. Like, go play by yourself. No, I want to show you something. No, I want to show you something. God forbid I play that game where I pull something out of her ear. I'm like, oh, look, there's a penny in your ear. Then she goes again, 115 times. Again. And I'm like, there's some chicken in your ear. There's a quarter in your ear. Oh, look, there's a lamp in your ear. Again. Okay, can we do a segment on when our 2-year-olds are just like, would otherwise be fine except that they're like incredibly annoying?
Sure.
It's like it's like hanging out with someone who has like a bad sense of humor and always cracks themselves up with bad jokes. It's like at a certain point, like, no, I'm done fake eating a 24th potato. I don't want to fake eat any more potatoes.
I know. And that's the thing. It's like, I love my daughter more than anything in the world. But I feel so guilty when I have these moments of like, oh my God, she's so annoying.
I think, you know, we've been talking about this. I do think that like people, I mean, this is my opinion. It's like, I think we tend to overdo discipline because if you have to go somewhere at a certain time, you got to move the kid, and that's all there is to it, and the kid can't win. But if you're just like, why don't we go over there now? Why don't we go over there now? I tend to be the kind of person is if she says, I want to go to the playground, we just go to the playground, and then we come back when she says she wants to go home, and then there are no fights.
Right,
so who cares if you have to spend 4 hours in the playground because you had to spend those 4 hours playing with her in the house if you came back. But people are like, no, we have to come back because you've been here too long. It's enough at the playground. You don't see any other kids playing here for 4 hours, so why do we have to be here for 4 hours? And it's just like...
Right. I totally get it, Marshall. And I thank you so much again for joining me on this show today. We have so much more we could always talk about. I feel like these segments are too short, but your daughter's very lucky to have you as her dad. And I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about next week or the week after. I am Michelle Jerson. You're listening to Passport Mommy. Thanks so much for joining me today. Have a great rest of your day.